Okay, let's look at the hot names right here on the board. Item one, this is an NFL quarterbacks league, John. If you got a quarterback, is my philosophy. If you got a quarterback, lucky you. And if you don't have a quarterback, damn, you better find a way to get a quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
We got a unique situation. First name on the board, Russell Wilson. Just let go by the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are swallowing $39 million dollars of the final year of his guaranteed contract. They're going to pay that, which means Russell Wilson is on the street right now and he can sign with anybody. Denver gave him a permission because free agency doesn't start till Wednesday. Denver gave him permission at the end of last week to go visit teams. You go make the best deal you can. We're going to have to pay a chunk of money. Go find the right fit. The club that signs him only has to pay $1.5 million. Denver pays the rest of it.
What a deal.
Now, if there's a second year on the contract, whoever signs him is probably going to have to pay $30 million. That being said, you get him for year one. I guess the burning question I have with him at the end of his run in Denver, and a really horrible year in 2022. Last year, he was competitive, and he put up good numbers, didn't turn the ball over under Sean Payton, but he just doesn't look like the same quarterback anymore. It's like he woke up an old man.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a question. Is he an old 34 years of age? Has time gone by him? Does he need to be in a unique right situation to be successful? So he's going to sign, and that'll be a value signing because Pallett's only going to cost you $1.5 million. He visited with the New York Giants on Friday night, and that's weird because the Giants just gave Daniel Jones mega money a year ago, and Jones has got a history of injury. He's coming off a neck issue. So he visited there, and then he got on a plane because he was seen at Newark Airport, boarding the plane to go to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's got all kinds of iffy quarterback situations. Half the world loves Kenny Pickett. The other half don't think he can bleep and play. You got Mason Rudolph's a career backup. What are they going to do? I could see him going to Pittsburgh for a 2-year rental at least and playing for the Steelers. So something's going to happen with Russell Wilson, and maybe it happens before we get to the opening of free agency because maybe he'll take the best situation rather than wait and play the game, etc. Second quarterback is Kirk Cousins. He's had a really great statistical year, Minnesota, a couple of seasons. Prior to that, big stat numbers in Washington, and he parlayed that into mega contracts. He's been in the 30 million range for a long time. I was told that he's asking for 40 million. Now, that's a big time established quarterback, but he hasn't won bleep in his NFL career. So he's going places. He's going to visit. I hear Washington's going to dive back in because he used to play for the then Redskins before he wound up going to Minnesota. Minnesota would like to keep him, but they can't keep him because they've got to sign 2 of their marquee free agents, including their top pass rusher, Danielle Hunter. So I don't think the Vikings can afford to have a $40 million quarterback, considering what they got to give Justin Jefferson, the superstar receiver, in the next year, and what they got to give Hunter right now. So Cousins is going to be on the open market. Okay, second topic on the table involves running backs. A year ago, you and I were talking about, geez, these guys are all peeved that they can't get paid. It's like everybody has neutered the running back position like it's not that important. We're going to find out how important it is because the names on the running back free agent list on Wednesday, John, are unbelievable. Saquon Barkley, Giants. Josh Jacobs has had a couple of mega seasons, Raiders. Austin Ekeler, who had 5 really great seasons with the Chargers. The young Dallas phenom, Tony Pollard, who's a run-catch guy. The heavy-duty bulldozer, Derrick Henry out of Tennessee. And the guy that intrigues me the most, and this might be a reach, played in Green Bay, rotated in and out when there were injuries, pretty productive, got hurt last year, but prior to that, A.J. Dillon. Chargers are looking for a pounder, and he is a pounder, and they can probably get him at a really decent price. I don't think he's going to dictate $10 million a year. Of all the guys I just mentioned, he might be the most affordable, and the Chargers have openly said, can you wonder what our team would be if Justin Herbert had a real tough guy running back? A.J. Dillon's a tough guy running back. So suddenly, the running backs, we're going to find out if people say, oh, maybe the running back is important. We'll go get Saquon Barkley or Austin Ekeler, etc. So you got that. Defensive line. Amazing season for defensive linemen. These are not sexy guys. These are big and forceful. Chris Jones is in Kansas City. He's an unrestricted free agent, but the Chiefs have told everybody, we will sign him. Then that might cost him $30 million. I don't think he goes anywhere else. The one who might is Leonard Williams. He was a really good New York Giant. Went to Seattle, he had injury problems, played for Pete Carroll. He kind of bounced back. He's on the open market. Unsung hero in Cincinnati. This would be terrible if the Bengals lost him. Defensive tackle DJ Reader, really good guy in Miami. Christian Wilkins, who's just a big physical force guy. Miami's got, as we alluded to, the cap problems. He might vacate there. So suddenly there's some pretty good defensive linemen that are available. NFL trades. Obviously, we're waiting to see where Justin Fields winds up. Half the world's looking for a good quarterback. I was told the price tag would be a second and maybe a fifth to get Justin Fields. He struggled first 2 years, crappy team around him, coaching mess, etc. Had a good season last year when he finally got healthy. Throw and run. I think he's just about to cross the threshold of being a really established, productive quarterback. He's going to get traded. And you got Minnesota, you got the Raiders, you got Pittsburgh, you got Atlanta. Somebody's going to wind up with Justin Fields. Interesting name just surfaced on the board on Saturday. Pittsburgh's kind of reached the end of the road with their diva wide receiver, Deontay Johnson. They're putting him on the trade block. Now, he's got a $14 million cap figure. He's got 1 year left before he becomes a free agent. And on Saturday, there was a big trade. Denver, which is continuing to shed payroll, they traded Jerry Jeudy, who's their second receiver. Small guy, can fly. Catches, I think he caught 54 passes this past year. He's had a lot of injuries, so they traded him to Cleveland. He was a number 1 pick in Denver. They only got a 5th and a 6th. Cleveland may have really stolen a really good receiver. Of course, you got to keep him on the field. So, John, there's the roster stories as we're talking about. You know the names on that board there. Pick a couple of names. Let's talk.
Well, for Wilson is an interesting one because a lot of the fans on social media responding to the videos that we posted think that he could be a serviceable transition guy, for like a year, a half a year, maybe a year and a half. I like that idea. Do you think the Raiders? I mean, the Raider fans are saying that sounds like a possibility because they know they're not going to get one of the elite top 2 or 3 quarterbacks.
The Raiders have mumbled about trade up. Well, that's a long way to go from 13 to maybe get inside the top 3 because they've kind of hinted J.J. McCarthy. Although I tend to think J.J. McCarthy at 3 is a real huge reach. But, they're not talking about the LSU quarterback, Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the guy they're really looking at. If they're going to make a jump from 13 to 3, it'd be to get him. But the issue is to go from 13 to 3, God, you're going to have to give up a lot. I don't know, this year's number 1, next year's number 1, or maybe a 1 of 3 and another 3 in a following year. Price won't be cheap. So, but the thing is, Russell Wilson is maybe a 2-year rental. What kind of quarterback are you actually getting? You're not getting the Seahawk vintage Russell Wilson. You get the guy we saw in Denver in a bad situation. And the head coach, Antonio Pierce, last week at the Combines made the comment, I'm tired of this Band-Aid situation at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And he just talks and talks and talks. A lot of great quotes. So at the end of the day, if you buy that thing, that means they're going to go get a young guy they're going to groom and grow, and he's going to be the guy rather than another Band-Aid, a.k.a. Russell Wilson.
Well, I like the story. You said they saw him in the Newark airport.
Yeah.
So, it's like the TMZ of sports, which is a thing, where they're tracking these guys. I want to go back to the heavy duty running back. Cause when I hear your voice and I hear heavy duty running back, I think of Marion Butts
and Natron
Means. I mean, so is this Diller guy in Green Bay? Is he kind of like one of those old school Charger running backs?
He's built like a fire hydrant. I mean, he's a physical force guy. He's got calves and thighs and legs that are like tree stumps.
Wow.
And he's got power, and he's got an extra gear. Now, he's more of a tackle-to-tackle guy than out in the edge. Aaron Jones is a great running back at Green Bay. He's been dinged up a little bit. I'm surprised that Green Bay's letting A.J. Dillon go on the open market. But, if A.J. Dillon's trying to get $5 to $8 million and become the guy, you can't do that if you're paying Aaron Jones $11 million. You can't put all that money into one position. So I think this is a unique guy that if I were king, I think I'd look at this guy because I've watched him play and I said, for a number 2, he should be somebody's number 1.
Yeah, well, the Chargers need a lot of help, so maybe that's their guy.
So what do you think about Saquon Barkley? I mean, the rumor mill is Philadelphia's gutted its running back room.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor mill is they want Saquon Barkley. Can you imagine Saquon Barkley crossing the bridge, going from New York, Philadelphia, within the division?
Yeah, that'd be something.
How do you think that'd go down in the Meadowlands?
Yeah, that would be tough. And you got to face him 2 times a year. But walk me back on Saquon Barkley because he was Penn State, right?
Yeah, big time physical guy, has got an extra gear, catches the ball well out of the backfield. He's had 2 major injuries in about a 5-year span.
But how old is he? I mean, he's got to be getting close to 30, right?
No? He's got to be, because he came out early, maybe 26, maybe 27.
Well, 30 is that magic line in the sand.
Well, somebody said it was.
Yeah.
But he's a really good player. I mean, we don't get to see many Giant games out here, and have had kind of a wretched couple of seasons because the team's been decimated by injuries. But, man, you watch him in the hole, and next thing he's at the second level. You watch him dart and dash. You see the extra gear, and he's coming in the hole, he's going to hit you. And if you can't take him down, then he's into the second level, and then boom. I think he's a really good running back. Now, he had a contract dispute last year. They franchise tagged him. It was a real mess. He made $12 million last year. He's probably the reason the Giants didn't tag him is if you're franchise tagged 1 year, you can be tagged the second time at 120% of what you made the year prior. We got tagged at 12 last year, which meant this year it was over 14.
Right.
I don't know anybody that's paying running backs $14 million per year. But he's really good. And, of all the running backs I ran through, if you're asking me, I think I'd rather have Barkley than I would Josh Jacobs. So Jacobs is heavy duty with the Raiders, and he has done a lot of what Barkley's done, although he's only done it maybe twice in a 5-year run because he had injuries. I love Ekeler, but I think Eckler's got to go to a specialized offense that's going to let him run some and throw a bunch to him. But I'm surprised the Chargers are treating him with such disrespect. He strung together 5 really good years. Last year, he got dinged up, and that relationship's kind of fallen apart. Derrick Henry, that's heavy duty out of Tennessee, but he's got 200,000 miles on the wheels. Mm-hmm. You talk about waking up 31 years old and being old. That could well happen.
Well, go back to the Commanders for a minute. With all that money, do you think they're in on all these top free agents?
Well, I think they should be, and I think they will be because the owner wants to make a splash. I think priority 1 is quarterback. What are they doing at quarterback? Because they've not had quarterbacking in a long time.
They have the number 2 pick, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could take anybody but Caleb Williams at number 2, or would you rather be competitive early, which means you bring Kirk Cousins back, and then you can use your second pick to go get an offensive lineman or go get the top defensive player on the board, or maybe go get a running back, although running backs in this draft, they're not rated that high right now. I think depending on what happens with Cousins and free agency on Wednesday, that'll dictate what Washington does. If they don't get Kirk Cousins to come back to D.C., then they have to decide, well, who do we like with the second quarterback position? Or do we make a trade for Justin Fields? Interesting, because there's at least 8 teams in that first round that gotta go find a quarterback.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them out there. Kirk Cousins is another guy that you always hear that he's so talented, and you see glimpses of it, but he's never in the final rounds of the playoffs.
No, never, hardly ever. And up until this past year, he had never won any quote marquee network games on Monday Night Football. His record was, I don't recall it, but it was horrible. It was like 3-12 in Monday night, Sunday night football.
Really?
Over the course of his career.
Well, he's been on some bad teams too. So.
Well, true. And but he's thrown for lots of yards and he's thrown a lot of touchdowns. His teams just haven't won. So maybe it's unfair, but Kevin O'Connell likes him a great deal, but just because of the cap issues that they got in Minnesota, they can't sign him. They can't re-sign him.
Yeah.
Now Minnesota's got a quarterback problem on top of all their other issues. So this Spurs watching, teams today started contacting free agents. Wednesday, they can start signing NFL free agents. Hey, we get to halftime.